Shall we start? Yeah, I just start the live streaming now.
Can you hear me?
Good morning. In this live webinar, I just welcome Dr. Professor Guru Swami. He is the conveyor of our webinar and head of the Department of Commerce, University of Madras. Just start.
Very good morning. On behalf of Department of Commerce, University of Madras, and National Journal for Advanced Study, it is my pleasure to welcome to the international webinar on behavior and dimensional analysis. At the outset, I thank our Vice Chancellor and Registrar for permitting us to host this webinar. Thanks for the overwhelming response we have received around 1,000 registrations. Look and corner of India and also international registration. Analytics is professional, and it will also remind you. It gives you a microscopic view for making better decisions. Now, four experts from different domains to share their expertise. Thank you for accepting our invitation. May I now request Head Department of Commerce, webinar to deliver the welcome message. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. This is from the Department of Commerce, University of Madras. I have all pleasure extending a very warm welcome to all the participants from across 6 countries. I understand close to 1,700 people are taking part in this wonderful event, international webinar on the behavioral and psychological dimensions of analytics. And on behalf of the Department of Commerce, University of Madras, and on my own behalf, and on behalf of the International Journal of Advanced Study and Research Work, I have all pleasure once again extending a very warm welcome to all the participants and the resource persons also. At this juncture, I would like to thank my colleague, Professor Shanti, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, for taking this initiative, for organizing this wonderful webinar on the behavioral and psychological dimensions of analytics. And I will also extend a warm Madam Dr. Priyanka, who is the founder, managing editor of the National Journal of Advanced Studies, Study and Research Work, for joining us, for collaborating with us, and co-hosting this webinar. And I'm happy to welcome the resource persons. And for another 1.5 hours time, we will be all the participants will be listening to. Will have the wonderful opportunity to listen to some of the wonderful speakers from across the globe. And we have with us for this purpose Dr. Alina Bertolini, who is the Senior Scientist, Head of Research Unit, Urban and Regional Economics, Italy. And I have all pleasure extending a warm welcome to Dr. Alina Bertolini. And I also welcome, Mr. Julia Seberg, who is the Dame of Honor, International tax expert, lawmaker, project leader, and Minister of Finance of the Republic of Croatia. I welcome her in our midst, and Professor P Surrey is also there, who is a mentor, investor, and advisor. Talk to angel.com at PRA Delhi Health Private Limited and based at Delhi, India. Also with us, a very famous Professor Dr. Gibson Vedamani, who is the founder CEO of Retail Solutions and Learning Tech Retail Salt, based at Mumbai. And so I won't take much of your time, and therefore I once again extend a very warm welcome to all the participants to all the wonderful resource persons, and I'd like to thank you once again. Thanks a lot so much. I'm signing off. Thank you so much. I wish the webinar wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Let me just give you an overview about the C. Decision making is the factor of our life. As individuals, we need a lot. We need to choose a product, maybe a course. So, with the managers also in organization, they need many decisions. For example, design development, pricing, inventory management, and one thing which is different is that is very complicated, very fast. And there's so much so here comes the analytics, which use the statistical analysis to find out the heat. That's why we can make informed decision. This gives you a competitive minimize and thereby the growth and service. So this information is one behavioral component, the second. For example, to give a little for this webinar, we use various mediums to reach out to the analytics to find out which medium is very important to reach and also effective to reach. So that is a behavioral component. We know which medium is effective, that is the second. We can also find out what is the demand. So this is what is behavioral component. Just find out n number of ways in which and the psychological dimension, all our decisions are influenced by this. And it is intervened in our decision. So we plan to be very rational. But actually, psychology plays a very big role in our decision. In this webinar, we have host Dr. Alina will be touching about facial analytics. It is a technique which explains the behavioral patterns linked to a particular or a job. It is a session here. We'll touch upon risk management and how analytics is regulatory environment taxes. The interactive unit will highlight the behavioral and we have also got who will discuss application in research. This will also throw light about our own this international webinar is more and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shanti, Dr. Guruswamy, for the warm welcome our participants, our speakers, today's speakers. I just give you a brief note about today's speaker, what are they, how they can completed their and I just give you a brief note about our speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Alina Bertolini. She is a senior scientist, head of unit Urban and Research Regional Economics D. Vitiro Foundation as a teaching member of PhD program Landscape of the Contemporary Policies, Techniques and Visual Studies, University of Rome. She is active learner and proactive in nature. She has held lectures and courses in the context of master's and doctoral program in 15 Indian and international universities including Trinity College in Dublin and the University Campinas of Brazil. She has published more than 50 articles, essays and volumes both in Italy and abroad on the subject of innovation, development and she is active board member since of International Journal of Advanced Study and Research Work since 2019. Our second speaker, Kisenja Chipak, Dam of Honor. Kisenja Chipak worked since 25 years ago for the Ministry of Finance, Tax Administration of Republic of Croatia. She is a highly respectable and recognized international tax expert who has heavily involved in lawmaking and was responsible for several tax reforms in Croatia. As a project leader, she established compliant risk analysis system and provided idea solution automatic VAT refund based on risk analysis system on Croatian tax administration. She is currently involved as a head of tax risk analysis in the future development of CRM system connection for tax legislation and the CRM system through risk analysis, especially in the analysis of solution for applying new technologies in chain and digital distribution ledger. She is board advisory of European Network for Economic Cooperation and Development, contributor member of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, member of Government Blockchain, lecturer at the Faculty of Law of the University of Zagreb. She is an active board member of International Journal of Advanced Studies since 2019. Our third speaker is Dr. Gibson Vidamani. He is founder and CEO of Retail Solutions and Learning Tech LLP, Retail Salt, which hosts www.retailversity.com, an initiative for online executive education and e-learning in retailing. He was the founding CEO of Retailers Association and author of 3 books on retailing. Being a retail industry expert, he serves as a consultant in many retailing organizations. Earlier in his retail career, he has held significant position in organizations like Bata, Shoppers Stop, Reliance, Webworld, etc. He is currently as a director on the board of Gem and Jewelry Skill Council of India, nominated by National Skill Development Corporation, Government of India. Our last but not the least, Dr. Professor R.K. Suri. He is the speaker of www.talktoangel.com, founder Psycho Wellness Center, New Delhi. He is a trained professional, chartered clinical psychologist, having more than 36 years of experience in hypnotherapy, psychoanalysis, neuropsychology, assessing relationship management. He is providing career counseling to many national and international institutes. He is internationally recognized in neuropsychology and brain neuroplasty and highly specialized in the field of learning disabilities. Executive Director RGIPT Raebareli, Founding Project Director IIM Shillong, ex-Vice Chancellor Monad University, Hapur, UP. Dr. Suri was the first traffic psychologist of India, was instrumental in setting up psycho-assessment centers for the special protection Mr. Prime Minister Shri Rajiv Gandhi. Dr. Suri is the acclaimed motivational guru for positive thinking, attitude and behavior. Provided career counseling to more than 20,000 students in more than 15 countries. Our speakers, today's speakers are ready to deliver their lecture. So I just hand over to Dr. Alina Bertolini to take over the screen.
Good morning, everybody. I feel amazed to be here with you, and our world looks smaller now because it revolves around a scientific community of more than 600 scholars and practitioners. So I would like, before address and my speech, I would like to send my greetings from my country, my place, to you all. Let's start. So The topics I would like to address to you all today is related to the spatial analysis applied in regional development studies, which is my main research field. I will address to you research strategies and techniques related to spatial analytics, and I would like to address some case studies from my country. First of all, I would like to have a quick outlook of the topics I'm now addressing. I will define what I mean, and my research group, what does age-based development mean, and how we are interpreting economic and economic development. We are going to frame it today like endogenous place-based development. Then I would like to address to you the method and techniques of place-based development analysis, which means that I will show with you research strategies and their operativization. Then I will close my speech addressing to you some compared application of territorial analytics. Let's start. Analysis is focused on understanding the past, what happened and why it happened. What I'm going to address to you today is analytics, aimed at focusing on why it happened and what will happen in the future. Therefore, I will address our research applications on regional development, or framed as place-based or territorial development analytics. I will address to you what I have the privilege to argue, contributing together with 700 scholars from all over the world, contributing to the Encyclopedia of UN Sustainable Development Goals. I had the honor and the privilege to write 2 entries for this encyclopedia, challenging the Agenda 2030. I wrote 2 entries, one related to social innovation and the other one related to urban heritage development and conservation. Therefore, I will, the reference I'm going to address to you today is related to what I have already addressed in this encyclopedia towards this challenging time. First of all, I would like to quote a sociologist, a European sociologist. I don't know if you all know Ulrich Beck. Ulrich Beck, a German sociologist, before dying, wrote a very important book for the discuss here today, The Metamorphosis of the World, how climate change is transforming our concept of the world. And I would say that Ulrich Beck frame of reference are very meaningful, challenging and inspiring to what is happening today in relation with the global risk we are facing. And he stated that, he argued that we need, all us as scholars and citizens too, we need new ways of seeing the world, being the world, and imagining and doing politics. And what I'm trying to address to you today is related to this task and these big responsibilities. Why it's our responsibility to face this challenging time with responsibility. Global risks like climate change, resource depletion, migrations, distribute forms of social inequalities, escape the traditional interpretive categories of the mainstream economy. We all agree that still the economic concept, the mainstream economic concepts are still based on the rational choice of Homo economicus and still based on concepts that should be updated, like class, nations, and normative concepts like sustainable development. As working since years, in my case, more than 20 years on sustainable development, I would say that this concept is still to be challenged. We need to be challenged this because it is supposed to be meaningful in every time-space context. Instead, adopting the place-based perspective, what I'm going to address to you today, the place-based perspective, which means community-led local development in regional analytics and policies, I would say it is to be considered important, if not crucial. In fact, risks are assuming different geographies in relation to the different regional territorial morphologies or the social inequalities involved. What does that development is a place-based concept. I don't have much time to go to grasp into that. I prefer going further. What have I talked to you up to now? That what happens in development trajectories in our lives depends on where it happens. That's why framing development not as growth, not as rational choice of Homo economicus, but in relation to space, in relation to individuals and communities, I think is, in fact, every city and regions, every places where we are living regulates the relations of economic strength and political power with other cities, regions and states in the light of its own genes, its own traditions, history, culture, its own administrative and productive tradition, which means that it is in its physicality, in his finitude, space like time can play a function of regulation and translation of ideas into concrete life practices. And this is what I'm going to address to you today. Why does the relationship between society and space matter, even in analytics? Two questions. Is the society, do you think that it is the society, the community that are building space, or is the society that determines the choices of social actor? On the other way around, do you think that space is a vehicle for the concept of planners or politicians, or is it belonging to the intentions of communities, of us as inhabitants? Let's stick to the core business of my speech today. I would like to address to you our and my group are framing regional place-based development, and I would like some research strategies and some concepts and their operativization. What happens depends on where it. Why I'm framing development into space, and why I would like to address to you a concept which is very European. Let's say European. I know that in English the concept of territory is not meaning what I'm going to address to you here. In the English literature, in the Anglo-Saxon literature, territory means a space with administrative boundaries. In our understanding, in our tradition of study, territory is something very different to this. And I would like to ask for a little attention to just jump up, translate this concept territory as you have up to now used into a new one, to switch into what I would like to address to you. Why territory is relevant to these topics. Territory is an added value in our analytics. In the analysis and analytics of regional development. Why? Because territory, framed as cultural, environmental, social, and economic layers, is a generative context of social analysis. I don't have enough time further into it. Let's stick to the next one. If we agree that the concept of the territory in the Mediterranean tradition semantically summarized relates to the thick relationship between space and society, accordingly, territorialization as a process might be for you all a challenging perspective that could frame values, culture, meetings of communities related to their own resources, their own development trajectories. Here, by framing regional development as a territorial development, I would like to address to you the importance of culture, of context, space-specific cultures. Therefore, I relate to econometric models of growth that could be significant all over the world. I would frame what is important for each community in relation of their own culture and tradition, and it is their culture that could drive trajectories of development. Therefore, I would relate to the concept of territorialization in the way me and other scholars have addressed to the English literature discussions. I will relate to this book, Cultural Sustainability and Regional Development, Theories and Practices of Territorialization, which I had the privilege to edit together with other amazing colleagues with the Routledge Publishing. Let's stick to territory. What we as scholars relate, how we interpret it. I would quote an important urbanist here in Italy. What I'm meaning with the territory. Let's stick to this quotation. The territory is the work. I'm sorry, is there anybody who has still the speaker open? Please close, because it is very annoying. Thanks. So the territory is a work of art. Perhaps the greatest and the most anonymous humanity has ever expressed. Contrary to the most artworks, painting, sculpture, or two techniques produced by man through the shaping of inanimate materials, the territory is produced through a dialogue. The relation living entities, we as communities, man and nature, in the time of history. Territories, therefore, is an anonymous co-evolutionary work which grows over time. The territory stems from the fertilization of nature by culture. The living being which is generated from this fertilization has character, personality, identity, perceptible in the signs of the landscape. That's what I'm interpreting, framing as territory. Let's stick to the core business of my speech today. Designing place-based development analysis. As scholars that research is stemming from a social concern, from a driving concept, the imagery. And our imagery in our research is the territorial development. And then by these driving concepts, their definitions of dimension, properties related to our the research questions, research hypotheses, then we could proceed to the cycle of the main endogenous how we are going. We have through these 20 years of research, how we have operativized place-based development dimension. I would like to address to you three main dimensions: territoriality, collective action, and participation. I don't have time to grasp into it. Please follow me further. Is territory heritage? Let's see, this is the main question driving development trajectories. This is my the research, applied research and analytics research we have been running together with my group within very important also European research groups in all these years. We're all tackling this model. This is this model. As you can see here, local heritage is mainly composed of three, at least, dimensions: the ecological dimension, economic dimension, cultural dimension. And this dimension could be also operativized into values, into comprehensive territorial values. I don't have now the time to tell you, to address you how we have measured the values, the territorial values of the places we have analyzed up to now. Just I want you to have a look to this model in order to understand the complexity and the interaction between what we are interpreting like placed local heritage and its development policies and conservation policies are stemming from how community understand development, and sometimes the market drivers are trying to address. This model, we have operativized this action research. I don't have time to address you, but I can leave my articles and essays and, of course, PPT, PowerPoint presentation, if anybody is willing to grasp into it. Only to say here that the model I have addressed to you could be also operativized into a set of indicators. So to compose a composite index of these different dimensions of development. Here in this case, we tackled to the sustainable territorial innovation indicator set into state and performance indicators. Here, the dimension related to we have addressed were four: integrity of the ecosystems, efficiency, social equity, cultural sustainability. Let's see here, we are framing development not as growth, not as related to homo economicus, but to individuals, to persons, to communities, which means that we are relating by our research to social equity, social inclusion, nobody, no community, no place, countries or region could be understood as developed if it is not inclusive. Compared application of territorial analysis, understanding our empirical research design. Here I have some cases. I don't know how much time I have left. Let's say 10 minutes. Please stop me if I'm going further it. Advise me 5 minutes in advance, when 2 minutes in advance, so that I can easily wrap up and go to the conclusion. Thanks. So here I can show some GIS referenced spatially referenced analysis of what we have developed along this and this was part of a big research I had the privilege to run. I was very young at that time, and I had the privilege to manage a group of more than 20 scholars within a network around Europe of more than 50 scholars. So I was really, I'm honored here to show some results of this big and very well-financed research. So you can say that you can see here that GIS spatial analytics is techniques and very good instrument and tools that could allow us to compare, correlate different dimensions of the economic, social, and ecological characteristics, regions, places that we are going to focus by our analysis. Here you can see that in this map, the environmental system in relation with the historical milestones of my place, Rome. This map is stemming from a European space data collection called the Corinne Land Cover, and that gives us the possibility to map different land use of the region we are focusing. So here in this map, 4 different layers are compared and interacted. The land use of the Rome area, then the infrastructures, rivers, and of course, as I told you, the parks and historical. Can you see here these dots, these black and red dots here? The main historical heritage of Rome in Italy. Here you can see other territorial analysis application compared. This map here is another scale. This is the south of Italy, and here you can see the research unit, which is regional units. And here the different colors show the level of transformation of use of land of the south of Italy. And still here we are using the elaboration of the Corinne Land Cover spatial data. And it is very interesting, this map, that because it correlates how the territory is damaged in relation with their low development level. What does this map mean? That the more spoiled the area the environmental area, the region are the less competitive they are, the less development level they can reach. Here, it's another application of our analytics. We have here especially georeferenced a different unit. This is a microscale unit. This is related to municipalities. Here you can see we have mapped an indicator, a composite index of the level of tourist receptivity. You can see here that the tourism in South Italy is related to cost. So what does this mean? That despite the fact that wonderful cities, inner cities, cultural resources, immense and wonderful natural and historical dimension in our inland areas, tourism is distributed along the coast. That means that tourism here in Italy is related to seasonal dynamics, and tourism system still is enabling to connect to the inland areas of our wonderful countries, and policies should be addressed to connect these different dimension of tourism. Here, other territorial application. Oh yes, this is very interesting. You can see here better how we have framed in our territorial analytics applications the level of tourism. Let's stick to a region. I don't know if you know in terms of the beauty of the Sardinia region. Has wonderful coast and wonderful seas, but also inland is very rich in tourist attraction. Here, the level of tourism and the colors of that, the tourism is very well distributed along the coast. See here, the inland areas can't connect to tourism. Here I want to address to you something else, a different use of spatial analysis. I think it is very important to construct future politics. Up to now, I have addressed to you the descriptive value of GIS analytics. Here, in this map, I have used GIS spatial techniques. We have used GIS spatial techniques very useful for future politics. Here you can see that this map is related to the spatial correlation of tourist receptivity between Sardinian municipalities according to what is called the local Moran index. These are old data, but what I would like to address to you today is the technique, which is still very interesting for our studies. What is interesting here, that the red areas, the red municipalities, shows that there is a strong between the municipalities where there is a high level of tourism receptivity, and they had, you see here that also inland municipalities, municipalities which are not directly facing the sea, are connected with the tourism dynamics. But what is interesting are not only the high spillover effect, the red What is interesting here to show you are the pink municipalities and the light blue municipality. The pink municipality means that, referring to our analysis, these pink municipalities means that if you tourism policies that could connect the tourism trajectory of the region could have positive effects in the inland region. Another interesting case is the light blue, which is meaningful for policies in another way round. These light blue municipalities here are very close to very well-known tourism areas. But despite the possibility of being advantaged from this, they are not relating to this. That means the light color means that something went wrong. So this way we have used spatial correlations is affecting the future politics. So this is a very good example of analytic, the way we have framed and conceived theoretically that could challenge and inspire perhaps future policies, systematic policies affecting tourism level here. I have just 3 more minutes. I don't have time to relate to all this. I would like now to wrap up. As my contribute here, as I've attempted to argue and address to you, the inclusion of the spatial dimension in the analytics of regional development in the way we and my group, research group, has framed it, it presents elements of great interest, I hope, for you, both with reference to the research output as well on the applicative level in driving what I called the community-led local development policies. It is the place, on our opinion, basing on more than 20 years research studies, it is the place-based scale which allows macro intervention more meaningful in terms of efficacy on the level of sustainable development. It is the place-based scale which provides a challenge to the socio-economic actors in terms of being proactive in the governance of the trajectories of economic development. A community-led based politics means that as community are actors of policies. It is the place-based scale, finally, which allows the decision makers to adhere more closely to the needs of those they represent, namely workers, citizens, and consumers, namely us. Which place-based development policy? Community-led development analytics research project can sustain policies aimed at bridging and bonding human relations, social milieu, trust, and thus facing the global risk as I addressed you at the beginning of my lecture. These CLLD policies are collective as to be interpreted and framed as collective action that can contribute to the sustainability of places, increasing civic pride, creating collective cultural memories, which are indispensable, crucial for livable places. Empirical observation of heritage participatory processes show the key role in reconciling tensions and conflicting interests attributed to local resources, thus constructing individual and collective identities answer plays, crucial for confronting global challenges. Thank you for your comments and your attention. Convener, the floor is yours. Thank you for your attention.
Ms. Ksenia? Ms. Ksenia? Yeah, please unmute your, yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Oh,
Hello.
good morning. Good morning to everyone. So I would like to share my content first, my presentation. I hope just a minute. That is, I hope here. Should be here, so please just a moment. Yes, it's here is a presentation. So good morning again. I hope that you hear me all very well. So greetings from Zagreb, Croatia. It's my special pleasure to be here with you and sharing this webinar with my distinguished colleagues, and especially all the audience. My issue will be about, my subject will be about analytics and compliance risk management system. Because I work for many years in Ministry of Finance in tax administration creation, tax administration. So I have some my own ideas and of course, some tools that we use in our tax administration and tax administration worldwide. So my point will be today, what are the challenges that we have in tax administration? How we look in the on the behavior of the taxpayers, how we can have the impact of the different behavior of the taxpayers. We are actually living in very exciting times. So we are in the digital evolution. It's lots of opportunities. So new technologies, as I remember before, you can do everything only by paper or on paper or send paper. So today everything is different. So, but it's good also for taxpayers and also for the tax administration. So I hope that I could move my presentation, but I'm sorry, but I couldn't. So we are here. We are somewhere here. I'm sorry, but my arrows is not. I will try once again. So it will be easier now. So what we have as strategic goals of the tax administration, this is a general overview. This is not all the goals, but of course every tax administration has a specific strategic goals, and usually they are the same in all tax administration around the world. So in India or in any other countries, that should be strategic goals. First of all, it's always legal certainty. So taxpayers should have some very high level of legal certainty. So we have to be careful that we don't have, for example, tax reform every month or every year or 2 times in 1 year. Or it is easier when the tax system, the legal tax system, the legislation is stable. What's that mean? It is perfect that we, for example, don't change legislation 5 years. that's a minimum for investors. They should expect that the legislation, when they invested, will be the same. Of course, that's not easy usually, and because we have, of course, tax policy, and sometimes we change the legislation often. And but we try that the changing of legislation is always better than before. So that's our mission. Of course, the Republic of Crimea state of the European Union, so we have to follow. We have obligation to follow the European legislation. Strategic goal of increased compliance is one of the most important. So tax administration would like to have compliant taxpayers. And of course, taxpayers usually, the most of the taxpayers are compliant and would like to be fully compliant because they don't want to spend the time on the tax administration. They don't want audits. They don't want penalties. They want to do their business, to have a time for the business, not spending time on the papers or sending some requests to the tax administration or too many contacts with the tax audit. So, of course, they would like to be compliant. Of course, is some minority of the taxpayers. We have to look at them very carefully. They have fraudulent behavior, and they are in the sphere, I could say, in criminal sphere. So we have to be very careful about that. But that's minority. Majority of the taxpayers are compliant and would like to be fully compliant. Of course, our next goal is prevention of non-compliance. So always prevention is before repression. Repressive instruments of the tax administration, every tax administration, are of course tax audit, enforcements, penalties, including internal audit. So they're repressive instruments. They are very costly. They are most costly instruments of the tax administration. Auditors and all repressive instruments should be optimization. So in optimal level. In that way, we use the tools. They can help that this optimization we finally achieve. A very important goal is increase trust and partner relationship with the taxpayers. So, of course, it is not so nice that you have obligation to pay the taxes. Nobody likes that. So, if we have to do that by the law, the task is that your way to do it is much easier, is not complicated, is something that you should do in a very easy way. It's important that the administrative burden of the taxpayers should be less and less. If we build more and more and need more and more compliance and sending a lot external audits, or if we are not transparent, so working and living in an Olymp, or we are some untouchable people, that's not good. So we have to have this with the taxpayers. They should trust that what we are doing are transparent, are fully transparent. So today we have possibility with digitalization and with the tools to improve this interaction with the taxpayers. And that's very important because we are one of the service to the citizen and the taxpayers. Of course, users are the part of the transparency and the building of the trust to the taxpayers. Why? So the taxpayers with the same tax problem or tax matter should get the same information wherever they go in the country. So, for example, in Croatia or in India or I don't know, anywhere, if I'm as a taxpayer in one city or another city, in one municipality or another municipality, I should get the same information. So that was a problem in the tax administration. I think that this is the problem in the lot of tax administration, that uniform procedures is not easy to achieve. We have a different people, different employees, different officials, but also we have technology today and they could help us. So I will show you in a case of automatic VAT refund. So uniform procedures build that trust and this partner relationship between taxpayers and the tax administration. It's very important. Also, timely detection and suspicion of tax fraud. Of course, as I said, a minority of the taxpayers are in the field of criminal activity and fraudulent behavior. So today we have to have timely detect that situations. So it is not easy task also, because today we are living almost fully in a virtual world. So until 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, the usual was that permanent establishment is some fixed place with the desk and the chair, and this is the permanent establishment. That is not anymore. It is, but we are more and more in the virtual permanent establishment. So when the fraud happened, it happened very fast. So the audit, as we know so far, when it starts and we send the request and anything, so we have a procedure, it is too slow. It could be very slow. So we sometimes have to start the audit in a few hours. So that's new reality. That's fourth industrial revolution. But of course, we build tools to prevent this situation and to act on time. Optimization of tax audit. So the worst that could happen in external tax audit start, and the auditors are going to the taxpayer. So the results of this audit should be significant and should be fine. If the tax audit are going and it's find anything, we are actually wasting the time. So we can, how should I say, silently monitoring the taxpayers without tax audit. So tax audit should be target the high risky taxpayers. Analyzing the possibilities of using of new technologies is our everyday work. Why? Because we have this strategic goal and we would like to be a very good service and we would like to achieve our results on time. So we need tools, we need new technology as a blockchain, DLT technology, machine learning especially. So we have this obligation to testing and analyzing and sometimes piloting some projects to see what are the benefits and advantages of these new technologies. Of course, this is not all the strategic goals, but this is most important. So sometimes we forget the very important thing, that the tax administration has two parallel goals. One of them is collecting the taxes from the taxpayers, but the parallel goal is to be quality to provide quality services to the taxpayers, so and the citizens. So we are kind of service, especially for a compliant and taxpayers and citizens. Of course, I don't think that this is, we are talking here about aggressive tax planning, of course not. But as much information we provide, as much tools we provide to the taxpayers, our role and the results of our role will be good for the both sides. If we are closed without transparency, no services to the taxpayers, that will not function in the modern world, especially in the era we are living. So this is two parallel goals. So we can provide e-services. We can provide a testing phase. For example, if we prescribed by law some new declaration or some new procedure for the taxpayers. I remember one time we had really, I should say, complex new declaration. And this declaration started to be in force January 1st. But before that, we opened 2 months before, we opened testing phase for the taxpayers online. So they can test the declaration, how we will exchange the data for 2 months. That's very important also. So, of course, we have obligation, as in many countries, that we have to publish public our working version of the laws before going to the parliamentary procedures. So this is this transparency. So taxpayers should know what's happening, what they could expect from us for a month or two. If we just wake up in one day, we said, oh yeah, we have a new declaration on, or we have a new obligation for you, that will not work. Of course, it will work, but it works. But the question is how they will work. So many e-services, it's a really benefits of technology. For example, to sending the rulings, to sending the request, some information notice. This dual communication online with the taxpayers is very important. So. For example, they could have on the screen every day their situation about the taxes, if they had some debts or refunds, so they can see on the screen. So it's worked very well. Also, call center for some information. So that's services that we are building day by day, and this is our continuous work. So if somebody said it's only our only task is exclusively collecting the taxes, that's not actually true. We have a parallel task to provide quality services for our taxpayer citizens. But also in the digital era, we have many challenges for tax administration. First of all, paradigm between legislation and technology is already shifting. So what's that mean? The old rule and the rule for the centuries and for the years, I should say, is always that technology follow the legislation. This is not acceptable anymore. So legislation and technology have to be compatible. And sometimes technology will have direct impact what the provision of the law would look like. So that's very important, especially in the field of compliance and the administrative burden of the taxpayers. So if I'm writing some provision in the law, and I forget for technology, and I know that, for example, 90% of the taxpayers has softwares A, and I put in the law some procedures, they need some solution B, it will be costly for the taxpayers. Also, sometimes with the technology and the provision by the law, we can achieve a lot. We can achieve a much better legislative results, because legislation should be applying. This is not just a book you can read. You have to apply this procedure from the legislation, and of course, it's easier if you can do and your technology, your software is preparing for that, or hardware. I'm not engineer, but also today, because this paradigm is shifting, it is not acceptable anymore that in the legislation actually contribute only lawyers. Today, we need the people from IT sector, especially people who are experts for the blockchain technology and new technologies, because it will be benefits for all of us, for taxpayers and for tax administration. As I said, increasing trust and building partnership with taxpayers. The question is how to increase this compliant behavior. New business models. So as I said, we are in virtual world. So we have a different business models, as for example, the businesses from e-platforms, sharing economy, collaborative economy. So the way of doing business are different today than I don't know, 1 or 3 years ago. So we have to have that in mind, and this is challenge for us. For example, one of the challenge could be increasing the use of the cryptocurrencies. So what we can do to tax cryptocurrencies, how to tax, how to get the data in the data warehouse. So that's challenge us. Also, we continuously have to increase online services to the taxpayers. So that's something that will be minimize the administrative burden of the taxpayers. But also we today have more sophisticated, speedy and cross-border tax frauds. As I said, the tax frauds could happen in few hours. So it is very important that our tax administration, especially within tax administration, the tax officials and tax auditors are connected. So they will have to know what each other are doing in the same time. So we have one example that tax official in one regional tax office see one situation that could be suspicions of the fraud. And actually, because the connections between the tax officials and tax auditors work online, the audit opened and started in I think 3 hours. So a few years ago, that will be something unbelievable. So for audit starting to, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 weeks, it's too long today. We also, our challenge is the reduction of the time frame regarding the exchange of information between countries. So as the European Union, of course, we have automatic VAT, automatic exchange of information. And it's a very good idea. So it's especially very good to stop the cross-border frauds. But actually, could be faster using new technologies, and we should think about that. Of course, it could be based on blockchain or DLT. So it's something that we should be much faster in that field exchange of information. And also, this situation of the crisis of coronavirus and COVID-19 disease, how will be much more efficient if we exchange information between countries much faster. Of course, quality data is very important in that situation, but the speed is very important also. If you get after, I don't know, 1 week or 1 month, that's not same if you are getting if you can get information in a real time. Increase of quantity of data and collecting the data in real time. As I said, it's where the tax administration has a huge amount of the tax data, so it's a large data warehouse. But quality of data, it's the key. If we have data warehouse just for collecting data, that's too costly. So we should use the data. Security, quality, and transparency of data is the key of every tax administration data warehouse, especially in the field of exchange information and especially in the field to be a service to the taxpayers, because we use the data not only the taxpayers who are criminal or have fraudulent behavior. We use the data, for example, for pre-filing the tax obligations, and that's something that they do now, especially in the field of personal income tax, but is acceptable in the field of VAT also. We can pre-filing. So if we have data, we can be a very good service to the taxpayer. So for all these challenges and for all these strategies, we have to have measures and tools, and that measures and tools can have, some of them can have direct impact of taxpayers' behavior. So legal frame for taxation of the income from new business models. So if we have new business models, we have to have legal frame, and this legal frame should be very simple. So simplification of the tax legislation, one of the important key how to achieve fully compliance. So the simplification is one of the goal which is over all the time over our heads. It is not sometimes easy to achieve, but is possible. So a simple solution make the legal frame much more applying, much more simple for compliance. Also, because we have much more using currencies today, so this is something completely new. We have to have legal framework what cryptocurrencies actually is. And also how we will tax this income. And should we tax this income at all? So that's the questions which are very important for us. Legal measures and e-services for increasing tax compliance. For example, listing a lot of legal measures for increasing of compliance and building a trust with the taxpayers of tax administration. For example, horizontal monitoring is one of these measures. And this is actually agreement between tax administration and fully compliant taxpayers. It's usually used for large taxpayers, but it's actually a very good tool. So during the time of the agreement audit, we will not triggered. So the taxpayers will have partner relationship with the tax administration. Every change they will in some kind of communication, easy communication, present us every changes, for example, some acquisition measures or something like that. So that we should encourage horizontal monitoring. Also, we have to encourage APAs, because APAs in the field of transfer pricing are very important, because if we are going to, for example, without APAs and we just go to tax audit and find something, actually the field of the things are not simple. So it could be situation that each side don't have enough proofs for the court. So what we can do, we can spend the time on the court in a long procedure we don't know the results should be very costly for the citizens or should be very costly for the taxpayers. Actually, taxpayers, for example, could be ruined his business. And in this part, APA's advanced price rulings are something that we need to encourage. Also, we need to encourage the process of mediation before the court process. Mediation based on the law. So we have a special law about mediation, the process of mediation. So I will say from my experience, everything is better than going to the court. So if we can solve the problem before the court procedure, it will be much better. Of course, according to the laws. As I said, a lot of e-services should be available for the taxpayers and compliance risk management system. Today, we don't have I cannot imagine any modern tax administration without quality compliance risk management system. I was a project leader for implementing compliance risk management system in Croatian tax administration, and I was surprised how actually it was excellent work from two parts. So from a business part, from a side of the tax administration, so I know the taxes, and from IT side, from the company who were one large company with experts in IT. They are experts for IT, but they are not experts for taxes. But our together common work was excellent. So actually we learned from each other. We tried to we were trying to find different solutions. So if I said, okay, for compliance risk management system, I would like to have this and this situation. So how you can manage that? They will give me the best solution. So it will really amazing experience. As I said today, for legislation, lawyers are not enough anymore. So this common work with the IT sector was excellent. So my experience is really excellent. And during the building compliance risk management system, we started to think that we can use that data from the data warehouse for automatic VAT refund. And actually it works today. If you are compliant tax payers, so compliance risk management system will recognize that. So you will get your refund within your deadline prescribed by law. That's very important. For example, in Croatia is 30 days. So in these 30 days, your VAT refund will be on taxpayer account without any manual work. So the system, compliance risk management system, will show us this is compliant taxpayers. We have special composite model for that, and the amount will be on account. If we have this situation without any manual work, that's not mean that our employees, officials, or auditors don't have anything to do. They have a lot to do. They have a time to focus on our important things, or a majority which are compliant, to improve that compliance more and more. And also for this minority which is in fraud. So this is not a wasting of time. This system helps us to be much more efficient. Advanced analytics, predictive and prescriptive, are the next step. So we have one project about predictive analytics. What is all about? So prevention is our goal, not depression, prevention. So compliance risk management is not enough anymore. It is on the data we collect. So we would like to have some forecast which or whom taxpayers will be risky or not before the risk really happened. So that's very, very exciting. In data management, so as I said, tax administration has a very large data warehouse. But one thing is important, the quality of data. So we have many controls that the data which are going in the data warehouse are controlled in the front line, and the inputs should be quality. And of course, all the data in the data warehouse should be used. Collecting data just to have a data and storage data is not acceptable. Timely exchange of information between the countries, I talked about that. So one of the solutions should be direct access to the data. I know that sounds very, I don't know, very strange, but if you every tax administration in the world has the same goal as another tax administration. So what was the direct access to the data to the tax administration data warehouse in another country, or opposite? So of course it should be follow a framework, but that's possible. That will be much faster, and it will be really really something. Would be much more faster and easier exchange information all around the world between tax administration, for example, using the blockchain platform. Of course, they are machine learning, robotics. So, as I said, we should be analyzing these things almost every day. So, compliance risk management system scores taxpayers. So we would like to know which taxpayers are fully compliant, which are not, and which are high. And of course, we would like to know why is that happened and what we can do to change this behavior in the compliant. How to do that? Identifies gradation of behavior. So we have to have some scale, and we have to have risks. For example, the Croatian tax administration has a lot of risks, more hundreds of risks for every tax areas. So on this risk, we can show the risks show us the behavior of the taxpayers. We would like to have the picture of the behavior, the full of the behavior of the taxpayers for the tax matters. So why? System enables mass-based detection of types of risky behavior. So, for example, you can imagine on the one side, we have a lot of taxpayers which are compliant, and we have a major law. But between these two parts, two poles, fully compliant and not compliant at all, we have taxpayers which are actually not fully compliant, but they would like to be compliant. So why they are not compliant? For example, the reason could be complex of the legislation. So our taxpayers are not everyone lawyers or economists. So they don't know how to apply the law. So they will say, of course, I will try, but I will make an error. If they make an error, because, for example, the legislation is too complex, the results should be penalties. I don't think so, because penalties are repressive. Is a repressive instrument. So if somebody, of course, it is not everyone should be according to the law. That's not a question. But it is, for example, some small amount, and it is first time, and you see that is not, that was really an error. So the first time, it could be some, please don't do that anymore. It's not correct. So the next time will be penalty. So this is actually also built this trust between tax administration and taxpayers. If the penalties is too heavy, or if the legislation is too complex and this wall for compliance is too high, the people will go to the non-compliant sphere, they will say, we don't have a time for that. So we have need to find this balance and go on with this compliance. Increases compliance with tax law, of course, because they know that we can find some risks, and we will give the information, so information on time to the taxpayers. If they have some question, we will answer that, because we don't want these error penalties after that. Establish uniform procedures, optimization of so if we have compliance risk management system, they will show the taxpayers who are really high risky go directly to the tax audit, and will show us the taxpayers who are fully compliant, and we will not spend the time on that. And of course, they will show us these taxpayers in the middle, which are not fully compliant, and we will try to help with our measures to get these people in the field of the full compliance. So this is compliance risk management scope. We said we have first, we should start it and decide we would like to have compliance risk management system. We have a big data warehouse with quality data. Then we have composite models for the each field of taxes. And for any taxes on contributions, that's a special composite models. If you put, for example, the taxpayers in 600 risks in the same time, you will get the picture, but this picture will be precisely. So you need smaller composite models, for example, for VAT refund, for transfer pricing, for enforcement. So there you will get a much more detailed picture about the taxpayers. Of course, there is measures, so systems give our officials and auditors the measures, so that we could achieve the uniform procedures. Of course, this is here is the automatic VAT refund, as I said, for the fully compliant tax, and is most of them, they will get amount directly on the account without any manual work. But this important thing is evaluation of the whole system and how to build system. This is the live system, how to build that system to be much more efficient. What are benefits of this system? So system classification of taxpayers in predefined risk categories based on that behavior. So they could be fully compliant, less compliant, middle compliant, or not compliant at all, for example. Recognizing the taxpayers who have preference to risk through the process of developing predictive analysis. That's very important. That's something that in the world now, in the many tax administration, we are working on that. So how to this behavior before the risk happen? This is some like a forecast. Automated process of the VAT tax refund, because we have the data warehouse. So why we not use that for the taxpayers? Optimization of the audit capacity to the most risky taxpayers, so the system will show which the taxpayers are most risky. Transparency of selection of the taxpayers for external audit. So we don't have any more situation that tax auditors, it could be very rare, it could be situation that we don't have some data. But in practice, usually is that system choose who will go into the tax audit. Not one person, not two auditors. So this elimination of internal risk, so it could be that you have the same auditor in the same taxpayer office 3 times are not acceptable. So this is something that could minimize our internal risks. I will not use word corruption, of course, but everything is possible. So the system is good for that. So the system choose initiative and could control and could follow everything what is going on with these taxpayers in the tax audit. This is reducing internal risk and analytics. So we evaluated what we can do better. Is our speed good? Is our composite models good? For example, if we change the law, we should change the composite models. And of course, it's very important that in data warehouse, we have the data not only from the tax administration, we have the data source, whatever we can bring from other institutions in our, or from the exchange of data from the countries of member state union. Of course, the data from the treaties of avoiding of double taxation. So every data we can put in our data warehouse, and we should use that. Advanced analytics, as I said, this is the step forward, but this is so exciting. This is really a big step forward. As I said, we work on our predictive model, and advanced analytics can have the effect of predicting and preventing risky behavior only if we have a good source of data and enough information on taxpayers. Advanced analytics can be divided into two categories: predictive and prescriptive. What I would like to say here. So we don't have mandate, and we don't have right to try to get information and data from taxpayers every time when we would like. It is just once. And if we know that, for example, the same data that we need is in another ministry, then we will collect data from this ministry. Or if we collect data from European Union, so we will not ask the taxpayer for the same data. So it is the situation that we should collect data for all sources and from taxpayers just once. When the data go to the tax administration or any other data warehouse that we can collect the data in our data warehouse, we cannot call taxpayer anymore and say, okay, give me once again the same data. So that's not acceptable. And that is a really problem in some countries. So once is more than enough. Predictive analytics is based on the principle of trial and error in the detecting the occurrence of historical data and dissidence of prediction. So we need data, and we look at the behavior on the basis of the behavior of the other taxpayers. Can we forecast and say, oh yes, these new taxpayers have every attributes to make some frauds in some time. Prescriptive analytics is even forward, even step above, helps tax administration to recognize the impact of their activities on the behavior in order for tax administration to choose the best activities for a particular group of individual taxpayers. So actually, with good and quality measures, we can really, I believe in that, we can really have to have impact to change the behavior of the taxpayer much, much more than everything happened. So I think it's very something that we should be focused on, every tax administration. And new technologies, it shouldn't be a problem. With quality risk management system, they give that. Some of the conclusions. So prevention is the strategic goal. So not repression, prevention. Increase quality role of the tax administration as a service to compliant taxpayers and citizens. So I said about that, it's our parallel role, and we have to do our best in this field. Trust and transparency in tax authority. we will have much more compliant taxpayer. Repressive instruments should be targeted at the most risky taxpayers. That's possible if we have a tools risk management system, they will show the high risky taxpayers. They should be an exception if prevision measures to increase compliance are implemented and improved. It is imperative that tax administration recognize and analyze of new technologies. This is our continuous work because it will help us. We can use that benefit. I will say for the end of our webinar, one of my sentences which I would like to say. Every taxpayer is obliged to apply the tax legislations of particular country, but it also has the right tax obligation according to the principle no more, no less, that is precisely in accordance with the tax legislation. So I will finish my presentation with this slide. Thank you very much for your attention. I know this is a very we can talk about this subject for days, but important what I would like, and I hope I did, to is this dual communications with the taxpayers and importance of compliance risk management and the services which provide the tax administration to the taxpayers. Because taxpayers are, in the most situation, our partners, not our enemies. Thank you very much.
Dr. Suri? Dr. Suri?
Hello.
Yeah, sir, please continue. You are audible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I must acknowledge my previous predecessors and previous speaker. They have given quite an enlightening talk about the various aspects of tax reforms, tax compliance, and the spatial development and the application of analytics in terms of the developmental strategy. Today, I would be focusing mainly on to the current pandemic and the psychological application of behavioral applications with reference to the lockdown and post-lockdown, what kind of behavioral changes would happen, what strategies companies will going to take place, that I'm going to share today. Let me now share my screen with you. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. The context of my dialogue and discussion would be focusing on behavioral analytics during and post-COVID. The COVID-19 has turned into a global crisis evolving at an unprecedented scale, which was never visualized prior to November 2019. It has resulted into a greater flow, which has changed the human attitudes and behavior. Today's forcing the organization to respond, forcing the states to respond, forcing the countries to respond. How the need to respond won't end when the virus immediately threats eventually recedes. COVID-19 has forever change the experience of being a customer, an employee, and a citizen, and a human being. We expect to see behavioral changes in the scale for some time to come. The science of behavior change has already become a known subject of study and an increasingly important tool for design over the past 10 years. Now, the need for these capability will become foundational to experience creation and spread speed at which companies can must respond to them will become source of competitive advantage. The formula which most of the companies now take in pivot, learn and reason. Behavioral now question comes, what is behavioral analytics? That reveals the action users takes within a digital product. It organizes raw event data such as clicks into a timeline of each user's behavior, also known as a user journey. Teams across the IT domain as well as otherwise who are responding to such a situational demanding the various teams together uses behavioral analytics to determine which users like and don't like by inference what adjustment can make the product more valuable. And now the question comes, what is behavioral data? Behavioral data is the raw event that's generated when users click, swipe, and navigate a site or app. Teams can view the data and which behavior are most common or look at journeys, also called a user flow, which shows the order in which users take the action. Analysis relies on behavioral data. Now, when it comes to this, there are issues which emanate, which are very important. One, we need to think that this is the response time. Many of the applications across the globe been responding and giving free time and free services which are called premium services so that more and more people can avail that so that the analysis could be compiled. Similarly, participation in the drug trial is happening where the volunteers are coming in how to respond to the need of the hour. Behavioral analytics software users answers with a visual interface can segment users, run reports, and reduce customer needs and interest. Without behavioral analytics, teams are stuck using data, the so-called vanity metrics. As streaming, sharing, stealing, co-author Michael D. Smith explained, the signal if a company wants to personalize its services to user, it needs the big behavior data. Now, big behavior data, by keeping the people locked down, there is a tremendous difference when the people go as and when relaxation comes in. So we need to look into what kind of a behavioral change is going to happen, what will be its impact in the increase of the pandemic or in the decrease of certain consumption. Today morning newspaper reveals that there is a decrease in the consumption supply and demand of the vegetables. Badly. How do users react to feature changes? How long do user take from first conversions? Now, the people dealing with the analytics point knows very well that the conversion rate varies from 1% to 2%. Now, big data and diving onto the big data and analyzing the data is a mix. Of course, the marketing pundits, marketing gurus keep analyzing the marketing messages and provide the team which nudges users to be more successful. Now, there are certain steps to a successful behavioral analytics. First is selecting a goals, KPI, and matrix, defining the most desirable user journey, creating a tracking plan, setting a unique identifiers for users, implementing analytics, and the beginning of event tracking. But there are various number of tools which are people use in behavioral analytics. Some of them SPSS, analytics, or softwares. Now, today's organization disruptive forces, including needs for analytics. Data at the heart of the custom analytics is the interaction data, attitude data, and behavioral data. The situation now at the time of writing COVID-19 cases have exceeded, today it has exceeded more, it is 5 times the 9 lakh. And as are increasingly quickly around the globe, with concerns that 15% of hospitalization rate system overload, which was happened in Italy, which happened in US, and it is increasing in India too. To reduce growth in cases, government have moved to stricter social distancing with shelters in places, orders in many areas of the US, Europe, India, and other countries. Rapid demand declines. The deepest decline in the oil prices crashed to a bottom less than dollar a barrel. Amongst the deepest in recent being met by attempt to bailouts. Some Asian countries, example China, have kept increasing incremental cases low and are restraining economics. The booming because of the supply and demand being created for those products and services in which the China was having a monopoly. And as resurgence in infections is again an important element. How the situation may evolve, there is a limited window of public health response and meet demands, drawdowns with proportionate economic interventions. Without this, the possibility of a deeper effect on lives and livelihood is more likely. Scaled up testing will soon clarify the extent and distribution of spread in the US, Europe, and India. India is still to take up the testing and testing, learning from the other countries and recent innovations, strict social gathering rules, social distancing rules, drive-through testing, off-the-shelf drugs that can address mild cases, telemedicines, and tele-counseling, like the platform which is an innovative product offering the tele-counseling to health professionals and otherwise. During the pandemic, we have noticed that increase and surge onto a platform of like us, which is a curated platform. We have also analyzed the behavior of the people coming onto the site. We find that most of the people who are coming to our site are coming from the of Indian origin, coming from the Italy, coming from France, Europe, other parts of the Europe, Spain, and Croatia, who are seeking the services on account of the anxiety, fear, or phobia, and obsession, and the major stress, the survivor's instinct. All these we are helping, and as a result, prior to the pandemic, we were having around 200 users per day. Today, we have more than 1,000 users per day coming onto our site. Now, let me talk about 5 human implications to expect from people behavior next on account of the pandemic. The first and foremost thing is the cost of confidence. The erosion of confidence will make trust way more important than ever before. Now, the confidence in the system has already shattered. Actions that to be effective rebuild trust quickly and credibly. We need to focus on confidence building exercises through every channel. Justifiable will sell well. So we need to create positivity. We need to create optimism, and this confidence building of making the people to the restaurants, move to bars, move to the airports, use the metro, tube. All this going to be an important element. Nature of what we regard as the premium products and services. All those premium products and services, many of the apps are being offered free. For example, at the Talk to Angel, we also started offering free counseling to anybody who's coming and registering with us, so that we provide immediate support in terms of building a confidence and optimism and hope and a positivity that you will bounce back. This resilience is a very important part of the life. The second important is the virtual century. The enforced shift during the worst of the pandemic to virtual working from home, work from home, consuming and socializing will fuel a massive and further shift to virtual activity for anything. And it virtually will be witnessed more and more people will be going for virtualization. Winners will be those who test and explore all of those associated creative possibilities. Now, again, what kind of a brand, what of products are being flowed in the market is a concern. The concerns about health amplified during this crisis. Health will dominate in the years to come, particularly the coming 2 years. A health economy will emerge with opportunity for all to plug into. Every business will need to understand how it can be part of new health ecosystem that will dominate citizen thinking. It's cocooning effect. Desire for cocooning, along with opportunity for those who will create with creative strategies to enable it, it will move center stage for those for same reason. There will be those who zero their sights on the home, delivering education at home, delivering all products and services at home, delivering health at home. At the height of the crisis, many workers, especially, are spending more time at home. After this pattern will endure with meaningfulness and comfort carrying a price premium. Last but not the least, the invention of now, there's a resurgence of the authority and reinvention of authority after the effect of travel limitation, self-isolation, and lockdown officially government get their handling right, expect top-down control to be back in fashion, if not reversed. This is likely to be very by geography what role will companies companies play. This is an important issue. When the authority was given an opportunity on account of the lockdown, it took only 4 hours. They imposed lockdown in India. But when it came to withdrawing the lockdown, the government has thought many times when to and how to, what kind of SOPs are required, what kind of required, can we not pass on the authority to the state and from the state to the district and from the district to the companies, to the organizations. This is a big challenge. And all individual at the workplace, whether at home or at the at the pyramid of the company, at the top of the company authority is being accepted, and authority of the authority of the district, city, state, and country is being accepted widely. To explain all these things, the cost of confidence. People are postponing purchasing decisions. It has a lot of implication. Let us discuss one by one. The peoples are postponing purchase decisions. The purchases are going to be deferred. The bank very difficult in terms of the increasing flow of the money in the market. Noise is a problem. Now, the other is the familiarity with the more valuable. People were valuable, people were more focused on the valuable products and services. Now, this is that I am fixed to a particular brand and the supply to for. Now, this is raising a challenge and the cost of building, cost of confidence is increasing. Now, the fourth element of the cost of confidence is individual may rise. The individualism is rising because more and more people are distancing themselves socially. As a result, individual identity is becoming an important element. With the result, many of the psychological traits, characteristics are also getting active behavior. So the stress level is increasing. There is an increase in the anxiety, phobia, as well as reduction in the sleep, appetite, and domestic violence, relationship challenges. All those are putting more problem and risk and increasing the cost of confidence. The virtual. Now, today is going to emerge as a virtual century of everybody and everyone is focusing on online digitization. It's more important than ever to streamline for all sorts of experience. Like India was zooming. Globally, the world was zooming. So there comes a restriction on recently come out with certain guidelines on the Zoom's predominance in India. Now, some maybe many will feel discomfort at being virtual. I am being questioned many a time by my clients, Doctor, what will happen to the children who are now glued most of the time with the screen? Now they are spending their time in gamification, they are spending their time in terms of as they are not able to go out, they are spending a lot of time on online to the screens. What will happen? So all those things has a negative impact too. Bringing your whole self is going to be an important aspect. Broadband and 5G will be an essential, life essential for most of us. Companies that are able to adopt and utilize new virtual tools and models will achieve competitive advantage both short term and long term. Many of us are rediscovering social ties sometimes with more people than ever before. So as a result, we are getting lesser and lesser time to connect on account of physical proximity and on account of social distancing. So we are spending more time digitally in terms of reaching out by app like Skype or the other apps. The third is that every business is a health business. Individual and government health spending will rise permanently. Employees will also look to employers for advice and guidance and care. Cleanliness is becoming a preoccupation likely to stay along with sanitizer remaining a daily way of life, mask becoming a mandatory requirement in another 6 months or 1 year down the line. There will be a rise in the proportion of home spending on the home and made all home. People will stay more local. Localization will increase. The local brands will improve. Then relationship may blossom. The relationship between a grandparent and a grandchild would better ties on account of differences which were emerging in the European countries. Seems to be that because of the more time spending together at the family, this will help in terms of resolving lot of intergenerational issues. The fifth one is the reinvention of authority. As I mentioned, a culture may emerge that's fair, that's far more sensitive to ostentatious display of exclusivity, greater acceptance for role of government and companies in society, and the importance of collective behavior may occur. Now, COVID-19, this is big increase in the issue due to COVID-19. Now, what will the coming years, depth of disruptions, length of disruption, and shape of recovery? Now, the shape of recovery is going to be an important element. What kind of inputs are required? What kind of a mechanism are required in terms of recovery for the economy? Lean can act across 5 horizons, that is resolve, resilience, return, reimaginate, and reform. Now that will become the nerve center, will be taking a more resilience approach, will be open for resolving the issue, will return to basic, reimaginate, re-innovate, and reform. As Madam was earlier, my earlier predecessor were talking about tax reform using a big data. That is going to happen globally. People will be more open for reforms. Resolve making hard decisions. Every government across the globe is taking daily, day-to-day operations and taking harder decisions on an immediate basis. The study in China demonstrates responsible respondents to the survey. Every levels has increased before an outbreak and after the outbreak. There was a blurred boundaries between the work and life. So the work-life balance has changed phenomena. From the customer's perspective, we need to set up agile rapid revenue response. For B2B and B2C, companies would flourish. Now more and more B2B and B2C companies will find that they need to change, renovate depending upon the requirement of the customer at large. There are 6 steps towards end-to-end resilience plan. Identify and prioritize the key risks. Then develop a tailored scenarios, conduct stress, establish portfolio for intervention, set up a cash management dashboard, build the resilience dashboard. That's an important element. There are six building blocks for successful return, because we all have to come back with the force, come back with the vigor. Six major building blocks for successful return. One is restarting supply chain management, separation of reasons which has a concerns, that is containment, and segregating them, and testing and transparency of results, infections and reduction norms, health system capacity, and rehiring and retraining of many migrants. Like in India, around 5 crore migrants have moved to the villages, bringing them back and making them again work for the supply chain management. Many of them would require the rehiring and retraining. That is going to be a big challenge, and for the companies as well as for the individual. These building blocks can be sequenced in for a return plan. Now, the return plans, partial continuation, phase reopening, and the fiscal recovery, and the recovery and preparedness worked up. The next normal will be reimagined across multiple pillars. Consumer is one major pillar on which which was there prior to the pandemic has collapsed, will not be the same. We need to have a big data. When it reopens, the consumer pattern would definitely change a lot. Supply chain, again, it require a new thinking in terms of offering program. Similarly, the government regulations, every day government is coming with a different regulations. So government regulations many times are becoming contradictory to themselves of the past, and everyone is not very clear in terms of the tax regulation, reference to the incentives, SOPs to be given, SOPs which has been given. So all those regulations are a big question mark in terms of implementing by the individual as well as with the company. So organization will, how the organizations are going to follow the norms and operating procedures is a big question mark. And then the corporate valuation, many of the valuations of the corporations will go down and to increase, is also going to be a big challenge. The next normal degree is a shift in consumer behavior, that is regulation, organization, and supply chain will drive a next illustrative next normal and consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is going to give a complete in terms of the requirement, need, and want. The supply chain, the next normal phenomena, degree of a shift in consumer behavior, regulation, organization, supply chain, drive a next level. Regulations, again, is in terms of the shift of the working. With that, thank you very much. Thanks for giving me patient hearing. Thank you, everyone. Hello.
Thank you, Professor Surrey.
Thank you for your attention, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Suri, for the nice presentation. Dr. Gibson, do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's always a pleasure to be addressing my faculty brethren, and to be addressing you and discussing this topic, application of behavioral psychology based on retail analytics to improve customer experience. I know that time is running out, and I don't want to be standing between you and lunch for so long, so I'll keep my presentation as short as possible. The advantage of such a mode of presentation is that you can also have your lunch alongside. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be focusing on retail analytics and how the application of behavioral psychology analytics is are improving customer experience. So this is based on certain primary research as well. The agenda that I have set forth for today's discussion is that there is a small background that I'll share. I'll go through the retail environment as a model, and then we'll have a retail analytics model discussion on that, and then we'll see the application of retail analytics model to customer experience and how it impacts customer experience. And in conclusion, we'll see a little bit of post-COVID-19 influences on customer experience. This is a behavioral psychology study done as a pilot on a consumer services company by McKinsey. McKinsey, as you're aware, comes up with a lot of customer experience studies. Every year they publish a report. And here you see how how operations and behavioral psychology initiatives have influenced the rise in the customer satisfaction score. I mean, in the CSAT score, we see that before the improvement of operations and before implementing the behavioral psychological initiatives, the score was -20. After the improvement operations, the score came to 16, and then after implementing behavioral psychology initiatives, it went by 9 more, and then the score totally stood at 25. I mean, you all know how CSAT score is arrived, right? So sum of all scores of respondents, since it's on a scale of 1 to 10 into 10. So that's how important behavioral psychology initiatives are in retail. The micro environment of retailing contains 4 elements. We all know about these elements. Space, then we have the stocks to offer to customers and the staff to serve customers. Customers are the central point or the center of focus of retailing. So all these 3 things try to serve customers. I mean, as far as customers are concerned, the analytics pertain to the research questions like who are our store's customers, where do they come from, what do they want, what do they need to buy, what would they want to buy, how would they buy, and who would they come with to buy, and questions like that. These questions keep on expanding as we think about our customers. Similarly, when we go to the space part of it, how much is the space that is required for retailing? How much is the space that is given, as trading space? How much is the space that is non-trading space? Then the ratio between trading space and non-trading space comes. Then we have the analysis. How much is the square foot of space that is used? That is, how much is the sales that happens per square foot? How much is the stock do we have per square foot? Such questions do arise in terms of research, in terms of analytics. Similarly, in stock, what are the stocks that we have? How much stocks we should have? What are the mix of stocks that we have? What is the per square foot stock we have? What are the time periods in which we should have what kind of stocks? What should be the prices of these stocks, and what should be the margins that these stocks should have? These are the analytics that we have around this micro environment model of retailing. We are all aware of this. This is the framework on which retail business moves around or grows. Staff, how many people are there in the store, and what roles do they play? What is the schedule? How many people are there for every 100 square feet or every square feet? How many people are there in the store? So those are the questions that we have. And what are the sales per person per day? So these are questions that relate to analytics, that relate to people being employed in retail. So similarly, how many people are employed in commercial activities, and how many people are employed in non-commercial activities? These are some of the questions in terms of the analytics that we have in this model. Now, basically, now I'm coming to the retail business analytics model. I'm actually rushing through the presentation because we have pretty much less time. And I'll quickly explain the model. Usually my research know that, you have footfalls in retail. That means people come. In terms of even e-commerce, people come to the sites, they visit the site. So footfall is equivalent to the clicks in online retailing. So everything you can relate to online retailing as well. So you have footfalls, and then you have conversion, and you have ticket size, and that would kind of amount to the sales happening. What is footfall? The number of people coming into the store. What is conversion? Out of the number of people who are coming, any people buy. That is how many people are converted to business. So that is the conversion ratio. Then you have the ticket size. What is the average value of every cash bill, every bill? That is what cash memo. That is what is ticket size. So that is the total sales divided by the number of cash memos that we have. That is the ticket size. That equals to sales. So if footfall increases, sales increases. Conversion increases, sales increases. Ticket size increases, sales increases. So that's the basic analytics of retail. So if footfall is 100 and then conversion is 80%, ticket size is 500, then the sale goes up to 40,000. If footfall rises to 150 with conversion and ticket size remaining the same, sale goes up to 60,000. This analytics is useful in terms of bringing number of people to the store. If number of people reduce, this business reduces. So then marketing needs to be activated in this retail scenario if customer footfalls are not there. So you have to market the store to bring customers into the store. You have to market the website to bring customers to the website. Similarly, look at the conversion. If 100 people are there coming in and 80% of the people buy at 500 rupees ticket size is 40,000. Conversion increases to 90%, and then your sales goes out of 5,000, and conversion increases to 95%, sales goes up to 47,500. I have taken an operational perspective because it's easier to understand, and this operational application of analytics would improve retail businesses pretty much. And if you look at the ticket size, everything remaining the same, the same 40,000 goes up to 48,000, and the ticket size alone goes up to 600 with footfall and conversion remaining the same. Only if the ticket size goes up, it goes, in a scenario of 700 rupees ticket size, sales goes up to about 56,000. This is the formula with which basically retail works to improve sales. So that's the retail perspective of sales. Now we'll see the application of retail analytics model to customers, and to increasing customer experience. So the entire thing, this model is mapped to people, to products and processes. That means footfall is mapped to people, conversion, ticket size. Products are mapped to footfalls, conversion, and ticket size, and processes are mapped to footfalls, conversion, ticket size. And these would kind of increase the experience, increase the customer experience and increase sales in retail stores. So how does footfall influence consumer behavior? From a retail perspective, access is very important. Convenience of location is very important. I mean, Speaker Alina talked about the spatial analytics. I mean, access, one of the spatial analytics that we use is the gravitational analytics that we use for bringing customers to a particular location. As to what is the extent of coverage that a retail store has of customers living nearby? Is it a 5-kilometer radius or a 10-kilometer radius? For a destination store, it will be more. For a small supermarket, the catchment coverage will be less. So access is something that is very important for footfalls. Some stores even do not have more than 3 steps in their store. Psychologically, customers are deterred if to enter the store if even the steps are more. So in a high street, access is very important, because in a high street, customer footfalls are there, and you just have to pull the customers inside. The design influences footfalls a lot. I mean, the trends, the show windows. How the show windows would lure customers. Similarly, facility of parking would facilitate customer entry. If the customers know that in this place I'm not going to get parking that easily, customers from even coming in. So those are the psychological factors that would play on increasing footfalls. If you increase all these facilities well, then customers definitely would enter the store in large numbers. In a mall, it would be a different scenario. That would be a recreational aspect that pulls customers in. That's the reason why in malls they have a multiplex and people come there for recreation, and sometimes that becomes the focus, and shopping becomes just secondary also at points in time. And value of merchandise, good value. You give the good value of products, that itself becomes I mean, if you give products at the best prices, it pulls in customers. Your service is going to be very good. People know that, Nordstrom as a store is known for its service quality. People know that I'm going to get the best service over there. And that's the reason why people would come to that store. So that becomes a footfall enabler. Then comes the sensory aspects or the psychological triggers that happen with conversion. We know that sensories like touch, sight, and smell, they bring customers definitely to the store in terms of conversion. If you look at a supermarket, the very fact that we are using a shopping cart just, to see that the products are handled nicely, we touch, feel, and then by going with a shopping list to a Kirana store, we just go with a shopping list, read out the items in the list and buy. But when we go with a shopping cart, we buy much more. And now, okay, we are going back to the old, after COVID-19, we are going back to our old practice of buying what exactly is needed and not more than that. So we go with a big shopping list and go and buy. And the use of mirror, if you look at jewelry stores, stores that are selling apparel, the very fact that you will be able to see yourself and appreciate yourself, that makes you buy. The moment you see, you feel like buying, and you buy. Aromas of coffee, the aromas of bread making and cake making would definitely, pull customers into those, areas of the cafe and make people buy. Companionship psychology is something that has a positive trigger on buying. To Paco Underhill's Why We Buy. If you read Paco Underhill's Why We Buy, I got very interesting insights of how people buy. One of the things that he talks about is how people go with various people. How much is the time that they spend there? Women go with women. It's 8 minutes and 15 seconds they spend in a shop sometimes in just one study. Women go with children, it's 7 minutes and 19 seconds. I think he has taken a very small store. Women alone, it's 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And women with a man, it's 4 minutes and 41 seconds. So retailers would encourage people to come with in the company of women, so they spend more time. He also talks about a lot of other factors like the butt brush factor, the aisle breadth to be at least a minimum of 3 feet so that people don't touch each other. The very feeling that you're being touched by somebody, makes you get out of the store as fast as possible. So that prevents conversion. Similarly, recognition and relationship. You tell the customer, you acknowledge the customer by name. The retailer, when he does that, they feel like going to the store. And when people also get rewards in terms of their loyalty rewards for relationship is built because of these rewards, and they feel like coming to the store again and again. And bargains are another thing that one of the major influences of conversion. And there are pseudo bargains also. Sometimes there is one available for 50 bucks and 4 available for 200 bucks. There is no price difference. But if you look at it, if you bundle it and say that it's 4 for 200 and you keep it in a bin, it just moves very fast. And people relate bins to, bin sales to very reduced prices. You put even solid prices, you put a lot of things in a bin. People think that it is on sale and buy. And there are, of course, true bargains also. I mean, you buy one at 50 and buy 4 for 150. And that's true bargains. And we know about adjacencies, like the nudge behavior, the nudge theory. Adjacencies and eye level, keeping things at eye level also, kind of would make people buy more or, get customers to convert to buyers. So like bread and jam, the classic example of, keeping kids' napkins near the place left. That's a classic example in the West. That guys, when they go for shopping, they go to buy their beer, and if you keep the kids' nap is sold more. And you have a cross-merchandise planogram. Cross-merchandising is in the sense that you keep certain merchandise in one place and keep the same one in some other location also. and you keep it in three or four locations, and it's cross merchandised. I mean, you keep your socks in the shoes area also, and you keep your socks near the cash till also. So it's kept in two places where it also kind of results in impulse buying, and it initiates the customer to look at the product once again and buy. And similarly, selling and service influences, these are major psychological triggers for making customers buy. The friendliness of the salespeople, the friendliness of the staff, the expert affirmation in the sense that an expert salesperson, when he says that this attire looks good on you, buying the product. And similarly, service to delight customers. You know about the expectation theory of customer expectation theory. When you just meet expected service as expected, when you exceed expectations, it's delight. Since you think that the sales guys do not know your name, and as you go, you are being addressed by your name, and then that gives you the confidence that the customers recognize you there. So that is again one big affirmation, customer delight that you get. If your service falls short of customer expectations, that is a pathetic situation. That is not a kind of a situation that is wanted by customers. So similarly, add-on sales, upselling. Upselling is selling a higher value products. You just keep that nearby and say that this is a better quality product. Instead of buying a 200 gram, you buy a 500 gram. It's going to last longer, and it's going to be, you're going to get the scale of buying, and the price is going to be less, and get a bigger size, and that's going to impact the conversion. Sensory really works. Like for instance, a Starbucks, if you go to the interior, the design of the store is such that you've got the wooden interiors and you've got the chalkboard menus. You see any Starbucks, you've got a nice signage that has got a beautifully drawn, chalk drawn blackboards that you have. And then the scent of the fresh coffee permeates that location. And they have food, but it's not dominated at all. And you have the coffee flavor everywhere. And with this decor, the wooden decor, the signages, the the promo boards being in chalkboard. So you know that that's the environment that I am in. So that's the Starbucks environment, and you feel like buying your coffee there. Cineplex, the moment you talk about cinema theaters, we think about movie theater popcorns, and that's pretty popular across India. Any theater, you just go, you just have the popcorns. Without popcorns, there are no movies. So similarly, in the West, you sell pizzas, nachos, and other foods there. So you know that the environment is built by certain elements that psychologically. So Nike found that scent marketing is something that increases their purchase. There are certain scents which are dominant in some, which have become signature scents for their stores. So even people know that I'm in the store by dint of the scent that they smell in the store. So that's the kind of psychological satisfaction levels, that experience levels that customers have been given by retail stores. So on the one hand, we've seen the retail model. On the other hand, we've seen the analytics of footfalls, conversion, ticket size, and sales. And on the other side, we have seen what are the psychological and behavioral elements that are played. I mean, these are things that actually play up quite a lot. Even in, we draw customers into the store so nicely by certain circulation pathways that we make in the store in terms of design. We, kind of lead customers into the store, make them walk into areas where otherwise they would not walk into, by displays, we make a pinball effect to customers walk into the stores. So there are various effects that we create for customers to walk into the store and buy more. Similarly, in online retailing as well, we've got quite a lot of triggers, so we always say that customers who bought this, and this as well. So we kind of try to buy bundle items for the customers to buy more. That is what currently we do in terms of online sales as well. So as much as possible, we would like people to see more and more products. Post-COVID times, what is the issue that we have? As Dr. Suri said, we have the fear factor, we have the feeling of insecurity. What is going to happen next? We do not know. We don't know whether things are going to be available because the entire supply chain has been disrupted negatively, completely. So what is it going to happen now? Are stocks going to be available? Or people, can we go into the stores and buy, or should we keep buying online? What are the 70% of the people who are buying, who are in the rural areas and the small towns, due to data? Do they have access to online sales? Deliveries do not happen in those places. What are those people going to do? How are retailers going to respond to their needs, and that's something that they'll have to look at and see how they address situations post COVID-19 to give customer confidence, to give the experience to the customers. I think this too shall definitely pass. We know that, and usually I tell people that Q1 and Q2 are not the best seasons for business. Q3 and Q4 are the best seasons for business. Normally, about 70% of our business is done in Q3 and Q4. So we've not lost much. Maybe after September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March, the season is going to be good. Then we've got it, both online business and offline business. Fact is that a lot of retailers have used online, efficiencies to kind of make good the loss in sales in physical retailing. That is what they're kind of balanced with today. They use analytics in a big way to excel well in retail. So more footfalls, more conversion, bigger ticket size, better future. Now post-COVID, maybe there will be less footfalls, but we look at more conversion and bigger ticket size, and we are going to see a future. I think I've just rushed through my presentation. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you. I think if I'd made a small difference to your learning, that feeling is great to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Gibson, for this wonderful presentation to our live audience. They are very much happy with this whole experience from the research, tax administration, psychological content, and the retail perspective. They are very much happy with this thing. There are some questions that we can take from the participants. They have some queries regarding this. So, as you are the expert of this session, can you please address them?
Thank you very much for your questions. I will answer very quick. So the first question was making data warehouse, how to maintain and utilize in the it depends on. So especially, for example, tax administration has a huge amount of data. Of course, building the data warehouse and using this data, it's not easy task. But if the data warehouse is smaller, that of course it will be much easier. Important is to using the data and to maintain the data. So of course we have IT experts and I in the whole field of IT. So they continuously support us. So it works without errors. So could be some errors, but this is not really usual and not really important. But without the data warehouse, of course, we cannot do a lot. So my next question was, can nudging be used to increase tax compliance? Yes, of course. As I said in my presentation, it is dual communications with the taxpayers. If I, for example, if we send some letter by for example, taxpayers to warn about his obligations. Of course, it's something that people accept as is our experience in a good way. So we are for them. But of course, we can talk about is rewarding of taxpayers increase the compliance? Yes, of course. In this situation, for example, we can have some lottery games. We will every citizen for seats and sent to the tax administration. We will have the lottery games, and actually it is also the way of compliance. So yes, the nudging absolutely yes is one way to increasing the compliance. And exchange of information between the countries is reliable. Our experience actually is yes. We are working on the principle of FIDE. Of course, if if we get the information from exchange of information, if of course we will have some research of this information, we will, as if it's necessary to talk with the taxpayer, then we, if we saw something suspicion, if we see something suspicion, then we will take our measures. So I could say yes, they are reliable. So thank you.
Yeah, there are two questions which are raised. To one is with reference to what is companion psychology. Ship is predominantly a relationship. When you talk about companion psychology, is a relationship psychology, where the important pillars are there in any of the companion psychological principle. One is a communication, second is trust, and the second part component is a trust, and third is a respect. Now, these three important relationship between any of the task force, sale task force, in the shopping mall, when the visitor visit there, he is doing more of a window shopping, or he is being influenced by the other so-called pop heroes who have enticed him by saying, this is a good product, please do. I am using you, so you should also use. So he or she goes there and build on that relationship. He or she try to look at that product or a service. Now, the right communication strategy, trust, building up a trust between a consumer and a brand, and a consumer and the mall or a shop is an important element. And the respecting the characteristics, AIO characteristics of the individual is very important, and giving a convenience and giving a valued product and services. Yes, another important element which comes is a pricing, right kind of a pricing, right kind of a offering. So discounts very often attracts and woo the customer. The other thing which were being put forward to me, that the psychological triggers which are there in terms of the psychological triggers acts upon differently in retail business structure and in shopping mall. Yes, the psychological triggers do impact differently. In the shopping mall, there's notice that a lot of you're going to buy something, but you end up in buying something else. Similarly, online shopping also is bent upon impulsive buying. I have many visiting to me on account of increased anxiety, increased behavioral triggers that they go forward for very long, very impulsive buying on internet as well as on the shopping malls. Now, these are predominantly on account of their psychological triggers. If a fight has happened between a husband and a wife, or between a partner and a partner, so he goes there and buy a product which was not required, but in order to satisfy her urges, that the product is being purchased. Now, that is on account of the triggers. The triggers person to person and varies from. That's why many of the product, as Dr. Gibson was mentioning, that we try to display the product at different places. So that displaying the product at different places many times helps the impulsive buyer to have a better look at those products and buy. So the whole marketing principle looks at converting the ticket size and ROI of the product and services. Consumer convenience important in terms of companion psychology and building up a relationship. The impulsive buyer may buy once, but not forever. So we need building a right trust, right confidence, right communication strategy, and also the respect to the customer and the consumer, that what he or she is getting is a valued product or a service. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Gibson, sir.
Yeah, the very fact that companionship psychology works in retail is seen in terms of people coming in groups. Whether it's a mall or any retail store, people coming in groups. You got a certain model that we apply the decision making. See, you got an initiator, influencer, decider, buyer, user. Sometimes these are all different people. Somebody initiates the purchase, somebody influences the purchase, somebody decides the buying. So in an impulse purchase, it may be different, but in a higher involvement buy, the initiator may be different, the influence and the decider may be different, the buyer may be different. So the buyer could be the head of the family, or the decider could be the wife. Sometimes, if it's jewelry, the decider is the wife, and the person who's is the husband. So in this, the companionship psychology works quite a lot. I mean, the influences of the members, that kind of plays a bigger role in retail, actually. So somebody has asked the question that how can we improve footfalls and conversion in stores? Stores per se, if they offer the kind of right merchandise and the kind of right prices, sometimes it becomes a destination. Sometimes, some stores become a value destination. Some stores become a fashion destination. Zara, for instance, is a fashion destination. By sheer dint of the fashion and the latest fashion that is there, I mean, in a H&M store or in a Zara store, that just pulls customers inside. In terms of mall, the sheer mix of the tenants would influence customers to come to the mall. If the tenant mix is not right, if it's not marketed as a single unit, then footfalls would suffer. In a lot of psychological factors that would actually play in bringing customers to a retail store. In terms of conversion, quite a lot of, people, product, processes, all of them play an equal role in making conversions happen, including the placement of products in various locations. And in retail, if you see in organized retail, people keep shifting products from one place to the other, one location to the other location. I mean, the day you see some items in the front, it's not kept in the same place the next day. So if they want to sell more, you've got the hot spot, you've got the warm spots, and you've got the dark holes in retail stores. So you identify, make an audit of these places and change the locations. That's the reason why staples are always kept at the end of a supermarket. You've got convenience products in the middle. So you've got certain categories of products which would pull customers in and create that conversion happening. So that is what happens in a retail outlet. Those are the psychological nudge triggers that we use psychologically to take customers through the store and to buy more. So this is how we kind of increase footfalls and conversion. Don't know what are the other questions that are there for me. Yeah, that is one question there. What can be expected amidst COVID-19 in education sector? I think Dr. Suri can answer this.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. In fact, when we look into the education sector, there is going to be a big transformation globally. UGC is also coming out with a guideline that you can pursue 2 degrees simultaneously, which was not the case prior to COVID-19. Another important element which is going to be there in India is the new policy on education. Education itself is going for a big reforms in education sector, which entails that there will be 3 types. There is the money which has been innovative, creative minds to rejuvenate and reinvent the whole paradigm. That's where the education has to play a big role. And education is going to go for a big strategic reform. And each stakeholder you will find that the retail chain in terms of the supply of delivery is going to change. If I need a course, if I need a knowledge, if Dr. Gibson is an expert or Dr. Alina is an expert, I must acquire from him or her. I am not interested to go to Harvard to get the degree if it is of no use in terms of making me more independent, making me more reliable, making me more comfortable to apply and solve my problem. And problems are going to be more localized than global.
So next question is how psychological triggers would work in e-commerce. So basically e-commerce, what we see is the spread of merchandise. I mean, what we call the cross merchandise value that's being available for customers to buy. I mean, the more the products are kind of listed in the e-commerce site, I mean, it's really good. And number two is that itself would bring in customers. The factor that's very important in e-commerce is the price. I mean, we cut off the middlemen. I mean, the middlemen's margins are gone completely. The trade margins are completely gone, and so you got only the retailer and the customer. I mean, even in the marketplace, it's only a very limited percentage. So when it is reduced, the benefit is passed on to the customer. So if there is a price advantage, customers do come to you. So I mean, there are other triggers like crawlers are used where customers are browsing. They use artificial intelligence to what they're looking for, what they've come to in terms of a number of times, much more than once. So customers, the retailer would, the e-commerce guy would talk about repeatedly to the customer and bring the customer back. You know, and those are the kinds of triggers that people use. Even if you look at small retailers, are another set of retailers. You know, India is a place where we all coexist. E-commerce would coexist with and also with even the small retailers like the traditional retailers. They also have their set of thinking to lure customers. I mean, they do quite a lot of things to attract customers to come back to them. At least in terms of top-up buying, you know, we just go and do that rather than stock-up buying. So top-up buying with them. So that's all the questions that I see for me. And over to Priyanka.
Yeah. Dr. Alina,
I would like to.
yeah, would you like to address something or share your viewpoints on the same?
Yes, please. I would like also to ask Dr. Suri to close his audio, please. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for the inspiring issues raised here. And I would like to add more on this in relation to all the important issues raised, especially those about the need of education and the need of critical thinking and the raise of critical awareness that this crisis, the pandemic crisis, but also linked to the metamorphosis of the world is related to. I would like to add something in relating to the validity and reliability of data. It is very important to know, to be aware as scholars, as practitioners, as citizens, that managing data, we should be very responsible because it is important to know that this is not in question here, the validity and reliability of data, but the important is to count on the reliability of our frames of references. In other words, we can't misunderstand, misuse and the data with the frames of references. We have to be very aware that values and interest are influencing social facts and the data representing these social facts. In other words, data are only one way to construct a storytelling on that data. So it is we are valued by society, by public opinion, not for the validity of our data, not for the number of our data, but on our methodological position, because the infatuation with numbers might crush a concept on the indicator, might mask or even hide ideologies and assumptions on data. So in order to raise our critical awareness, we should not confound data, which are only some tools, some storytellings, but be very aware to construct very good, very robust and reliable methodological model, a logical, robust frame of referencing. So we are valued from that for that. And we should always bear in mind this fact that we have a responsibility towards the people reading and listening to us as scholars. And we should not hide the values and the assumptions and even the ideologies that are under our data. And I think that it is important to add this to this very interesting discussion. I really have much appreciated all the issues raised here. I would like to conclude my intervention with this. These times, this challenging time, need, first of all, that us as scholars, as practitioners, as professionals, as we should be aware of our responsibility and do all our best to raise critical thinking and critical awareness, especially starting from our data. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah. Ms. Kisangia, would you like to address or add something on the same?
I hope that you hear me.
Yes.
I would like to say about the data. Of course, as I said before, the security of data is very important. But of course, as I said, that we in the data warehouse, we should use every data because it's not only the storage that is under the legal framework. So we cannot do with this data whatever we like. So we have to act according to the law. That's the first. And the second, about the education, I didn't talk about that. Education of the tax officials, tax auditors, even tax management is very important. Also, the education of taxpayers. So this is daily education. This is everyday education. So I educate myself every day. Even I work many years in the Ministry of Finance and Tax Administration. So education is one of the key that we can make the better situation between tax administration and taxpayers. And to give the taxpayers opportunity to have a less contact with the tax administration, to spend the time on their businesses, in their businesses, not with the officials or tax auditors. Also, I think that this communications and conversation today was a really nice experience for me. Special thanks to organizer and special thanks to the audience who are very patiently for almost 3 hours. it was my honor and pleasure to share my thoughts with my colleagues here, and thank you very much for all of you who are still listening us. Thank you very much.
Gibson sir, would you address some more questions?
I think there is only one question which relates to the meat industry, and they say that how can meat industry has lost its market? How can it regain? I mean, there's no specific answer to this how they would regain, but when things are becoming normal, everything would definitely come back to normal. One is regarding the availability, the supply, and the demand, and in terms of people not out and buy and things like that. So consumption also is currently at a very, very low ebb. We are retail contributes to almost 40% of the total consumption in India, which is almost about $720 billion consumption that's completely hit now. And that is with the non-essentials and some of the food products, that's the case. The very fact that the complete supply chain has been disrupted is the fact that the loss is definitely there. To cut it back and to come to the old level will definitely take time. And I think there's the better days to come, and we are hopeful about it. The industry also will grow. Having said that, I think we have to organize systems and processes as far as that industry is concerned, and then look at kind of bringing that as a big category in future, even with veganism, gaining momentum. It's going to be a challenge definitely, and there is no single strategy that we can right now say that we can apply to improve that business.
Dr. Suri, would you like to add in this? Dr. Suri?
Yes, yes, Dr. Yes, Priyanka. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, Dr. Gibson, as he was rightly mentioning, that the meat industry has gone to big losses, predominantly in terms of the psychological challenges being put across, that eating non-veg is not right, eating non-veg has certain issues leading to increase of pandemic. And as a result, many of the people who are very staunch lover of meat and chicken and other non-veg items have also changed their feeding habits in the last 2 months, and this will go off slowly, and we have to provide confidence and a economic stimulus package from the government also in order to revive the industry, because as well as we have to organize regular programs for educating the masses that eating non-veg is not that bad as people were thinking in terms of linking it with the COVID or pandemic increase. Hygiene is an important element, and cleaning of the things is more important rather than whether you eat a product or a veg product, because the Chinese food habit and the habit of eating bat and other things were questioned phenomenally worldwide. As a result, many of the meat lovers have also relinquished and changed their eating patterns and eating habits. So this has also further impacted the business. Closing has also impacted the business, but slowly the surge. And on the policy level, the government has also to provide certain stimulus and proper SOPs in terms of the right products, right kind of a sanitation, right kind of a things are to be brought, and frozen blockchain element are also to be properly adhered to, and retail functioning of the same needs to be properly done, because it's a very, very specific retail based industry for which the specific answers have to come locally as well as globally, with the policy perspective being put forward. I hope I've been able to clarify some of the issues. The other point which which was being put across, that the psychological stress and strains coming out of the buying behavior. Yes, online behavior has increased, and the demand on certain things like pulses, food items have increased over the time because the people were more confined and were buying at home. Now, these patterns would emerge, would change as soon as the regulatory and the control mechanisms being brought back, and the lockdown is reduced, and more liberal freedom is being given to people to go to the shopping malls or go to the marketplaces to buy, because there's no supplement in terms of seeing and feeling a product, or seeing and feeling a product than just having a visual merchandise on online. So that retail will definitely surge back. Supply chain management needs to be properly adhered to. But at the same time, the stress which people were feeling about, it's a time-based activity. Slowly and slowly, the things will improve, and more confidence needs to be put up in place of the people. That whenever the storm comes, it makes certain losses and impact on people. That impact goes off. Slowly life have to move on. We have to move on, and with that, we have to have a positivity. There are 4 pillars of happiness which has to be brought into the mind frame to reduce the psychological stress and strain. First pillar is positivity. We have to have a positive outlook. We have to be optimistic. The second is the passion. I have to be emotionally charged to improve myself, improve my family, improve my society. The third P of happiness is the passion, the perseverance that I keep on doing the things regularly. And the fourth is the purpose. What is the basic purpose of my doing a particular activity? If I am currently in the lock, it is for my own good health. It is for good health of my whole family. So the 4 pillars of happiness: purpose, positivity, passions, and perseverance will remove many of the strains and psychological stresses in the mind of the people. We have to be optimistic in terms of transforming ourselves and transforming the society. Thank you. I must thank all the organizers, particularly the Madras University and Ms. Priyanka Gupta, as well as my co-speaker on my panelists who are very well, much knowledgeable than me. I thank them all for enlightening me with their record experience and vigor of their knowledge. I acknowledge and I appreciate, I express my sincere gratitude to all. Last but not the least, I express my sincere gratitude to the listeners and viewers who are patiently hearing to me and to all my panelists. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Expert, would you like to address something more, or we can close the session? Yeah. Hi. Thank you, everyone. We almost take 3 hours of you, which is a very good time. You can take knowledge from it, understand their views, share your queries with us. Very much thank you. Thank you, speakers. And I'm very much, well, I don't have some words to express my feelings with you all, as you have given your expensive time to us for this session that we have conducted so far. Thank you so much. Thank you, participants. Thank you, speakers. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, dear Priyanka, for your organization.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so nice meeting you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. I would like to, if it is possible, to share presentation. Really, it would be really valuable to have your thoughts with me in my work from now on. And especially thanks to Priyanka to have organized such a meeting the world is closer now around our community, which could be in this time be an epistemic community. Thank you.
Yeah. For all the participants, please note the quiz link is open within 5 minutes on the ISSRW website. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bangai. Thank you, Shanti ma'am. Thank you, Priya.